Welcome back to Echo Report, bringing you the latest news from around the world. For more than 70 years, American-led free trade was the backbone of the global economy, shaping the way nations interacted and prospered. The United States championed open markets, lowering barriers and encouraging the free flow of goods, services, and ideas across borders. This approach not only bound allies together through economic cooperation, but also fostered a sense of shared prosperity and mutual trust. Countries around the world benefited from access to the vast American market, fueling growth and innovation. Institutions like the World Trade Organization were established to create stability and resolve disputes, providing a framework where nations could negotiate and thrive. Japan, among others, rose to economic prominence under this system, transforming itself into a global powerhouse. But in 2016, the election of Donald Trump marked a dramatic turning point, challenging the very foundations of this global consensus. Embracing an America First doctrine, Trump viewed trade as a zero-sum contest, where one nation's gain was another's loss. He wielded tariffs as tools of leverage, targeting not just rivals, but even long-standing allies. Almost overnight, the predictable, rules-based order gave way to uncertainty and confrontation. Trade disputes erupted, and the global marketplace became a battleground of competing interests. Allies who had long relied on privileged access to the U.S. market suddenly found themselves facing the threat of tariffs and trade barriers, often with little warning or explanation. This upheaval forced countries around the world, especially export-driven economies like Japan, to question their economic security. They began to reconsider their dependence on American leadership, and to explore new strategies for safeguarding their interests. The era of comfortable predictability and stable alliances was suddenly over, replaced by a climate of doubt and anxiety. In response, nations scrambled to adapt, forging new partnerships, negotiating fresh agreements, and seeking to write new rules for a world where the old certainties no longer applied. For Japan, the sudden imposition of U.S. tariffs felt like a deep betrayal, a jarring shock that reverberated through every level of society. The move was not just an economic blow, but a rupture in the trust that had been carefully built over decades of close alliance. It shattered the long-held belief among Japanese leaders and citizens alike that loyalty to the United States would always guarantee economic protection and stability. Decades of alliance, cooperation, and massive investment in America were suddenly at risk, leaving Japanese companies and workers uncertain about the future. The impact was especially severe for automotive giants like Toyota and Honda, whose success depended on open access to the American market. The threat of auto tariffs jeopardized not only profits and jobs, but also the intricate supply chains that connected Japan to the global economy. The backbone of Japan's economy, its manufacturing and export sectors, suddenly seemed vulnerable, as markets reacted with volatility and uncertainty. Prime Minister Abe's personal diplomacy with President Trump, once seen as a source of stability, now appeared powerless against Washington's new transactional approach to international relations. Japan's leaders were forced to confront a harsh reality. Trust and friendship with the U.S. no longer ensured economic security or predictability. The shock of the tariffs forced a painful reckoning. Japan's deep reliance on the U.S. was now exposed as a potential vulnerability, not a strength. In response, the tariffs catalyzed a sweeping strategic rethink within government and industry, prompting urgent discussions about the nation's economic future. Japan began to diversify its partnerships, reaching out to Europe and Southeast Asia, and signing new trade agreements to reduce its dependence on a single ally. The era of comfortable dependence on the U.S. was over, replaced by a new sense of urgency and determination to chart a more independent course. Japan now faced the challenge of balancing its vital security alliance with Washington against the need for a more resilient and self-reliant economic future. The lesson was clear. In a rapidly changing world, resilience required diversification, adaptability, and the courage to forge new paths forward. Japan responded to uncertainty not with confrontation, but with a quiet strategic pivot. The goal: diversify partnerships without undermining the U.S. alliance. Japan deepened ties with Australia and India, forming the Quad to promote security and economic cooperation in the Indo-Pacific. It strengthened relations with the European Union, building a coalition of middle powers to uphold free trade. With China, Japan balanced engagement and caution, maximizing economic ties while countering geopolitical risks. This pragmatic approach marked Japan's evolution from dependence to strategic autonomy. By broadening its network, Japan gained resilience and options in a volatile world. The shock of tariffs became a catalyst for self-reliance. Japan emerged as a more independent and proactive global player. Japan's boldest move came in the wake of America's sudden withdrawal from the Trans-Pacific Partnership, a decision that sent shockwaves through the global economic community and left many nations uncertain about the future of free trade in the Asia-Pacific region. Defying expectations and overcoming significant diplomatic hurdles, Japan rallied the remaining nations to salvage the deal. Through tireless negotiation and consensus building, it led the creation of the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, or CPTPP, ensuring that the vision of regional economic integration would not fade away. This bold leadership marked a dramatic shift in Japan's global role. No longer content to simply follow, Japan was now actively shaping the rules of international trade, setting standards, and building alliances that would influence the global economy for years to come. The CPTPP opened doors to key markets across the Pacific, giving Japanese businesses new opportunities and reducing the country's dependence on the United States as its primary trading partner. This diversification was crucial for Japan's economic security, but Japan didn't stop there. It also struck a landmark trade pact with the European Union, creating one of the world's largest open economic areas. At the same time, Japan played a pivotal role in the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP, linking Asia's biggest economies and further expanding its influence. These ambitious agreements position Japan at the very center of a new global trade network, connecting East and West and making it a vital hub for commerce, investment, and innovation. Even as America stepped back from its traditional leadership role, Japan stepped up with confidence and vision, proving to the world that it could lead in defending open markets and championing the values of free trade. Through proactive diplomacy and strategic partnerships, Japan secured its economic future, ensuring stability and growth for its people and its partners. In a turbulent era of shifting alliances and economic uncertainty, Japan's trade strategy became a global model for resilience, adaptability, and forward-thinking leadership. As part of its diversification, Japan cautiously engaged with the BRICS nations: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. For resource-poor Japan, these markets and resources were too important to ignore. Japan tailored its approach, deepening ties with India and focusing on pragmatic economic cooperation with others. This outreach increased Japan's diplomatic leverage and flexibility, even as it remained a core G7 member. Japan's engagement with BRICS was a hedge, not a replacement for its U.S. alliance. The goal: expand options, build bridges, and ensure Japan had a seat at every table. Pragmatic flexibility became Japan's new strength. The 2023 expansion of BRICS, adding Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Iran, and Egypt, made the bloc a major global force. For Japan, this brought both risks and opportunities. Deeper ties with energy-rich Gulf states could secure vital resources, but closer engagement with an increasingly anti-Western bloc risked straining U.S. relations. Japan navigated these tensions by focusing on practical cooperation, energy security with Gulf states, infrastructure with India, while avoiding contentious politics with China and Russia. The expanded BRICS underscored the need for Japan's strategic autonomy. Japan balanced its G7 commitments with selective engagement in BRICS+, maximizing benefits while minimizing risks. This nuanced diplomacy allowed Japan to thrive in a multipolar world. Strategic flexibility became its guiding principle. Japan's pivot was a diplomatic balancing act, strengthening its U.S. security alliance while building economic independence. The American security guarantee remains the cornerstone of Japan's defense, especially amid regional threats. Japan increased military cooperation with the U.S., signaling unwavering commitment. But economically, Japan now leads major trade pacts and negotiates from a position of strength, no longer dependent on U.S. approval. This dual-track approach, security with the U.S., economic autonomy globally, reflects Japan's new reality. Japan can now pursue its interests with agility, engaging with a wide range of partners. The country has matured into an independent power, balancing allegiance and autonomy. Its strategy is a model for navigating a complex, multipolar world. Japan's evolution is a testament to resilience and adaptability. The America First tariffs, meant to assert U.S. dominance, instead propelled Japan toward independence. Forced to adapt, Japan shed its post-war dependence and emerged as a global leader. By championing free trade and building new alliances, Japan gained credibility and influence. It now bridges divides between the West and the global South, engaging flexibly with all sides. Japan's dual approach, security with the US, economic outreach worldwide, gives it unique diplomatic power. The Trump-era's disruption became the catalyst for Japan's transformation. Today, Japan stands resilient, influential, and ready to chart its own course. In a world of uncertainty, Japan's strength lies in its ability to adapt and lead.